It is very possible for you to be the lowest priced chiropractor in town and still be thought of as terribly expensive. Now, how can that be? Stick around and I'll break it down for you. All right, welcome back to Coffee with Dr. Scott. We're here on a Thursday, and you know what Thursday means. Thursday means we are turning your practice into a referral generating machine. We're working on the 6 referral essence components, the first of which is cost. Last week we talked about cost versus value, and that value and validity are your 2 secret weapons to dealing with cost in the patient's mind. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between cost and price. And how those things, again, affect the patient's mind. I want you to keep in mind that this is about referrals in this situation. So it's not about getting that patient to accept care. It's about them to accept care, but also to refer everybody they know. And that's what referral generation, referral mastery is all about. Now, if you are the type that likes to read ahead, I have put a link down below to our referral mastery guidebook, which was made last year. I know the link says 2019. I haven't taken the time to update it yet. But if you'd like that and you'd like to read ahead, please go ahead and do that. Okay. Sorry, I had a little issue there with the Facebook. Yes, click on the link for the referral mastery down below. Sorry about that. And while you're there, answer the question of the day. While you're in the comments clicking on that link, what's the one thing you're going to miss when this quarantine ends? Let me get that up there for you. There we go. So what's, obviously there's a lot of complaining and a lot of stuff going on right now, and things are tough or whatever, but there's got to be something good about right now, right? So what's the one thing you're going to miss when this quarantine ends? Put that in the comments down below for me, please. Start a little conversation with me. I'm still trying to get my Facebook up here. There it is. Okay. While you're making those, and I do see people joining now. Hey, John. Hey, TJ. Hey, Kenneth. Thanks for stopping by. I was trying something new with a new screen. It's not working out very, very well. Anyways, let me get right into it. And again, we're talking about cost is one of the 6 referral essence components. And that's what that referral mastery guidebook will go through, is all 6 of the referral essence components. Kind of gets you ahead of the game if you want to. We're going to deal with them all here on the show, one at a time. But again, cost is the first one we're dealing with. And it is the first one because you can't overcome it. If all the other 5 referral essence components are in place, but your cost is out of line, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting the referrals that you're looking for. And a lot of times when I look at practices who have a cost issue, who have a referral issue, it is a cost issue. It's a lot of that value and validity that we talked about last week. If you don't remember that, go back and check it out. And it's also some of the pricing stuff we're going to go over here. So again, if you're just joining us, make sure you answer that question of the day. It's over there. One thing you're going to miss when the quarantine ends, I do see that John is saying all the extra workouts and all of the extra time, I believe. It's off the side of my screen. Like I said, I'm trying a new screen here. Not working the way I want it to. But let me give you my pricing rules while we're sitting here. There we go. So again, I do want you to remember that we're talking about pricing right now. The pricing, your fees, not necessarily cost. We'll get to cost when I'm done here. Number 1, first rule of pricing is to be fiercely competitive with easily compared services. Like adjustments and price on the first day. So what I want you to think about here is anything where a patient calls in and asks you what your price is. To make a profit in our business, you need to be very clear about when people are shopping and when they're done shopping. And what I mean by that is when they're shopping is when they're calling around asking for fees. So I'm talking about adjustments, price on the first day, again, those things that people ask for. You have to be very, very competitive there compared to other people in town. Because when they're just calling around, you want to get those people in your office, obviously. So those entry-level prices need to be competitive. They don't need to be lower. You don't need to be the low ball in the area. They just need to be competitive. You can make up some of that stuff on the back end with other fees and whatnot. We're going to talk about that here in a second as well. But you need to be very, very competitive on the things that people call around for. All right? Number 2, do not attempt to challenge those comparable prices in your area until you've mastered both value and validity that we talked about last week. Once you've achieved those, then you can challenge the fees in your area. You need to get demand first, then you can increase your prices. I hear a lot of doctors talking about, well, if you're the highest price, you must be the best, right? Yeah, maybe, but it doesn't just happen that way. Raising your prices doesn't make you the best. You being the best allows you to raise your prices. And that even goes, number one and number two, definitely go for maybe some more holistic practitioners that take longer with the patient, so they charge a higher fee. But if someone's just calling around and your fee is, let's say 80 and someone else's is 50, they don't know the difference between those things yet. So if you give out a price on the phone that is 50 and that is your adjustment fee, but you have other add-ons later, once they're in front of you and they're done shopping, they've accepted you as your doctor, then you can tell them the visit fee as opposed to the adjustment fee, if you will. And don't make that into a bait and switch, because it's not. It's simply being competitive with your pricing. And again, then being different allows you to then charge other fees once the patient has accepted you as their doctor. Pricing rule number 3, do not ever, I repeat, ever send out a letter telling patients that you've raised your fees or that you've dropped out of insurance. Do not do that. It's amazing how often I get this question. I'm thinking about raising my fees, or I'm thinking about getting out of this insurance plan. Should I send out a letter? No, do not do that. That's the quickest way to lose half your patient base. You need to tell patients when they're in their office, and at least one visit before it takes effect, but my rules are a month before it takes effect. So if you're going to raise your fees on, what is today, June 1st, you tell people today. You after an adjustment, you have someone take them in the back room, you explain what's happening, and that the next month nothing changes, but on June 1st, you're going to change those fees or drop out of the insurance company. Tell them with some rapport and make sure that we don't lose that patient and we keep that rapport with them. Rule number 4, do not nickel and dime patients with small exam and other charges. Put the entire charge into one price when possible. So again, don't surprise people when they go to check out and they think it's one fee and they find out it's another one. I've seen it firsthand being in praxis, how patients respond to that, and they do not like it. So be very, very clear about those things. Try not to nickel and dime them. And again, if you have a different price, that's fine. Just be upfront about them, which is coming up here at number 6 as well. Number 5. This is a tough one for me because I get a lot of flack about it. But whenever possible, don't even charge for examinations. And I know to some degree we have to. That's why I said whenever possible. If you need the money, figure it into the rest of the services. But people don't want to pay to find out what's wrong. They only want to pay to fix it. Think about yourself when you go to a mechanic. You don't want to pay for the diagnostics. You want to pay to fix stuff. It's the same here. And I understand it's healthcare. But if we're in that personal relationship business, whenever possible, or lower your fee for exams. A lot of people are trying to jack up that price. But if you jack up that price on day one or for exams, and people have to shell out a lot of money for that out of their pocket, they're less likely to buy your services. If it's the other way around and those fees are low but reasonable, they're willing to pay more for your services once they get past that process. So whenever possible, don't charge for examinations or charge a very, very low fee. Number 6 has to do with coupons or discounts or whatever. Whenever you do offer a discount or a coupon in an ad, or if you're doing Groupon, God forbid you're still doing Groupon, make sure that any patient who sees the ad inquires about it is also offer the same discount. Again, obviously if they're not in federal programs or whatever. Or they can get it for a family member. I see a lot of, if you go look at Yelp reviews for chiropractors, like I do often, you'll see a lot of that. As patients that are 3-4 weeks into care, they've paid a certain amount of money, and then they end up seeing that coupon and they don't have access to it. And again, obviously you can't refund that difference, but you've got to make it right with those people. So whenever you're doing pricing discounts, make sure you're aware of that. Okay, so those are the 6 pricing things that will keep your practice consumerized. And that's what's very important here. We talked about consumerism versus practicism as far as getting referrals. But watch out, because again, this referral essence component is called cost, not price. Now, those are pricing rules. That's because pricing isn't the only way to kill your practice's referral mechanism. In fact, most doctors have considered their fees pretty carefully. A lot of you do pretty well in those 6 rules that I just went through. It's with fees that you can lose both patients and referrals. It's with fees that you don't even get the case in front of you. Fees or prices not only don't get the referrals, but when it comes to cost, you tend to only lose referrals. The term cost doesn't refer to what you charge, it refers to what your patient perceives as your fees. So the patient in front of you might accept your care, but they're less likely to refer other people to you because of the cost of your care. And this comes when a doctor routinely bundles in a treatment plan into an all or nothing or take it or leave it type of presentation. There you run the risk of being labeled as high priced, even if your prices are very competitive, because the cost is excessive. If it's a one-time fee or a pay up front or something of that nature, and you've bundled it all together, you've had an opportunity to talk to the patient in front of you. And even though it might be an uncomfortable large check that they're writing to your office for a prepay or something like that, and they might be willing to do that, first of all, you need to be very, very upfront about what they're prepaying for if you're doing it kind of prepays. Otherwise, they have a very serious problem referring others. But still, when you're bundling care into a big cost, think about the fact that you have given your presentation, your dog and pony show, your perfect case acceptance presentation from yesterday that we talk about on Wednesdays. So they're willing to accept it and write that big check. But when they go out and they have lunch with a friend of theirs, and their friend is like, hey, I'm thinking about going to a chiropractor. You know a good one? They're like, yes, my chiropractor's the best. We just got started with them, and they're fabulous. You need to go, and you're so close to getting that referral. And then the patient's friend says, well, how much do they cost? And they're like, well, it's, just to throw a number, it's $4,000 because they wrote a prepaid check, or even $2,000, whatever it might be. The other patient is shocked, and then that referral doesn't happen. So you got to be very careful with the cost of your care and the bundling of the care and how you present that. That's not to say don't do those things. It's just to be very careful and make sure that we're weighing that cost, that case average, what you're doing there with the number of referrals you get. Because getting more money out of the first patient and losing all your referrals as a result is not a good thing. We've got to find that happy range. You've got to play with it in your area because it's different for everybody. So when we are setting the policy in our offices, we need to think about how it affects referrals later. It's not the patient in front of you that I'm worried about. They're right there in front of you. Again, you can explain it to them in detail. It's when that person goes out and talks to someone else that does not have that same understanding, and they don't understand why you cost that much. That's the problem. So you need to communicate those policies very, very effectively in your office. It's amazing how often I walk into a practice, someone who hires me to come in, and I'm sitting there and I realize that they don't go over finances at all. They're hoping for the best. They let the patient, pay for the first day visit, second day visit, and they haven't communicated any financial policies whatsoever. And in so doing, they have alienated that patient at some point, because it might be visit 3, 4, or 5 that patient's coming, and they now have an upcharge of that nature because nothing's been communicated to them, or it might be, the insurance stuff changes. We don't want that between us and the patient. The relationship between us and the patient has to be communicated very, very clearly. And the insurance company's the bad guy if you're dealing with insurance companies. We need to make it that way. All right. Let's see here. Anybody else answer? If you haven't not answered the question of the day, what are you going to miss most about quarantine? Put that in there. I see a bunch of people on the show, so put those answers in the comments down below. Also, if you want to grab that referral mastery guide, it is still down there. I haven't taken it away yet. And also, if you're not in the High Performance Chiro group, make sure that you are. There's also a link in the comments for that. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing our recap show, so we're going to go over all the stuff that we worked on this week. Next week, we're going to wrap up cost here for the Referral Essence components. And again, if you get that Referral Mastery Guide, you'll know what the other 6 are. Dog's going crazy. I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday today. I hope you all get a ton of referrals just from listening to this information and for getting that download guide. And I will talk to you all tomorrow morning for the recap show.